Hey there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a Western Practical Astrologer. Okay, so we are here today to talk about this full moon in Aries happening on the 17th of October. Yes, keep in mind that eclipses have been happening in both Aries and Libra for the past 18 months or so. Now, before we do get into this, please make sure to comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff if you do enjoy your horoscope. And if you would like to book a reading with me, you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. There you can also find all of my astrology products over there if you are interested. Thank you. Right, so let's get into the astrology today. What are we working with? This is just a general overview before we get into your horoscopes, which I'm sure your horoscopes is what you're here for. Okay, so notice here that the full moon happening in Aries is quite close to Chiron. Okay, so there is a conjunction with Chiron. Then also notice how these bodies are opposing the Sun and also Juno in Libra. So the Sun and Juno are the same degree, right? So this is happening at 24 degrees, which we're going to get more into in a moment. But yes, notice how this asteroid of Juno, this asteroid of marriage and partnership is there with the Sun. So our relationships are very much highlighted during this time. A lot of releasing, clarity, letting go. You could maybe say that this is sort of like a respite because this isn't an eclipse in Aries, but we will have the solar eclipse in Aries happening next year, so March 2025. So we could look at this as, okay, it's not exactly an eclipse, so it's not going to be as sort of powerful or strong, but it's still a time to see, okay, where am I? Where am I at? What's going on? What's been happening over these past 18 months? Even just think about how the nodes are still in Aries and Libra, right? So the North Node is in Aries, the South Node is in Libra. So there really is this back and forth, this balancing act between ourselves, our individuality, our identity, our wants, our desires, our passions, our drive with Aries, but then also to think about how we show up in collaborations, right? Thinking about cooperation, thinking about some healthy forms of compromise or being able to discuss things with our partners, with our friends, and also just to be able to take a moment to explore tact and diplomacy. Okay, so these are the themes that we're really working with around this time. Now, to also mention here, the Sun and Juno are making trines to Jupiter. So, well, here we notice then this ability to see the bigger picture. Do keep in mind that Jupiter is retrograde, so it could be a case of really taking a closer look at the facts and the information presented to us. What's coming through for me right now is just say the thing. Say the thing. If you want to know what someone else is maybe thinking, what they're going through, just ask. If you're not clear on something, just communicate. This really is a time period of communication. And I don't just mean talking, I don't just mean speaking, I also mean listening, to be able to listen and to receive. Furthermore, we see here that the moon is making that sextile to Jupiter. So there's also an emotional piece here, emotional truth, emotional honesty, emotional exploration and understanding. And to further say, this stuff that I'm talking about can be quite supportive in that, well, Mars is a part of this. Mars being a part of this sort of T-square aspect. You could maybe look at this as a grand cross because Pluto is in Capricorn at 29 degrees. The sphere of influence is still somewhat significant there. But to finish what I was saying there, Mars can maybe show up as this tension, this frustration, this, oh, I'm feeling so aggravated right now. Reactive energy could very well come up here. And maybe there's a part of it where some of us are walking on eggshells, but then others of us are just bluntly saying the thing. Whew, it can feel a bit tense if it is that we're feeling all types of ways and we're not really getting anywhere with other people and we just want peace or we just want the thing to be sorted. So this is why I think with the Jupiter aspect, we are supported during this time. We can be supported by trying to really understand other people's perspectives, to see things from other people's points of view, to come on to other people's side, so to speak. But on the flip side of this, being able to walk away whenever things are too much, to be able to go, hold on, this is too dramatic for me, this is painful for me, I'm not repeating the same cycle with you. I need to walk away, I need to think about myself. So just, of course, the thing about this is context matters, your personal situation matters. Moreover, in one of the previous videos, so it was the solar eclipse in Libra video, we explored that there was a grand water trine happening between Mars, Venus, and Saturn. But notice here that there is a grand water trine again. But Neptune is involved in the equation this time around. So Neptune could very well communicate this element of, okay, we could be a bit idealistic. We could maybe present wishful thinking, but it could also very well be a case of compassion. Hey, compassion, emotional depth, emotional honesty, and maybe it's this whole thing of you just don't really know what somebody else is going through. And everybody has their own stuff that they're dealing with, right? Their own blockages, things they repress, things they don't want to look at. It could even be that this Neptune influence highlights some avoidance on our part or some sort of unaware qualities, right? How are we being blinded? What are we not seeing? But hopefully, because this is a bit of a grand water trine, this will give us and support us in a way, well, it will give us some clarity about empathy and compassion, but also it can provide us with some sort of clarity with respect to, okay, how am I actually feeling? Is this worth it? Do I feel like I'm getting something out of this relationship? Do I see this relationship going somewhere? Is this truly aligned with my path? It's just a good way to reflect, to go within. A bit of contemplation could certainly help us out around this time. Then also see here, like I was saying, Mars is still opposing Pluto a bit. But with that, I would say keep in mind that this energy is going to gain more power as Mars continues through Cancer. But this opposition could very well indicate this push-pull, this explosive dynamic, this power play stuff happening, maybe reading into things a bit too much or becoming really obsessed about things or focusing a lot on how you're feeling or just as you are as an individual there. But that can be really extreme and very intense. Maybe this is about being able to reach out in some respects. Keep in mind that there are a lot of oppositions happening during this time, right? Like I was saying, there's still that Grand Cross influence. Uranus is also opposing Venus. So, with the oppositions in the sky, it could be a good time to reach out, to work together, to think about partnership, to think about collaboration, to let people know, oh my gosh, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I'm going through, rather than sort of keeping it all in and keeping it all in and then exploding. But with the same token, I just think that this could also be a case of identifying spaces, situations, relationships where we've outgrown them. Okay, we've outgrown that experience. Now it's time to rise. Now it's time to move on. And you could be surprised by what comes up whenever we consider these changes and these epiphanies, these realizations, actually, with respect to relationships. But then I also want to bring your attention to how Mercury is making that trine to Saturn. Okay, and Saturn is retrograde, just to add there, but this could be a case of, okay, what about my blind spots? What am I not seeing? How can I explore my unconscious? And I guess the thing about this is often, even if we notice that other people are maybe repeating a cycle or they're caught up in something, even if we were to communicate that and to say, hey, I see this, da 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 da, unless they can identify that within themselves, then it's very difficult for them to change. There can be this stubbornness with Mercury in Scorpio. There can also be this sort of, I need to protect myself, I need to defend myself. Maybe the truth can hurt. The truth can hurt even whenever it's presented to us in a calm and kind way. Maybe because a part of us doesn't want to change or isn't ready to go there, right? Isn't ready to address a trauma, a pain, something that's quite heavy. Also, keep in mind that Venus is making that sextile with Pluto. And then, of course, there is that trine happening between Venus and Neptune. Now, yes, okay, it's still part of the groundwater trine, but just to sort of add then to this, I think what this can indicate are the breakthroughs and the renewals to do with that emotional undercurrent stuff that I just mentioned, right? And maybe a part of it is about taking accountability. A part of it is, okay, how can I think about my own actions, my own choices here? And keep in mind too that Pluto is now direct by the time, it will be direct rather by the time the full moon in Aries happens. So with Pluto being direct, it's the final countdown, everyone. I may or may not make a separate video about the final countdown of Pluto in Capricorn, but I think the connection there with Venus sort of highlights and indicates what we want to move forward with in terms of building intimate relationships, right? Intimate relationships where we trust the other person or where we feel like we're in a safe space, we're in a safe environment to open up. Okay, so I definitely got into more information than I thought there, but that's just a basic overview. But also, if we are to move on to how, I think this is just going to really highlight and validate what I previously talked about through throughout the general overview. But the full moon is happening at 24 degrees, so that's a Pisces degree. So I want you to remember Pisces is this very sympathetic sign. It's a sign of healing. It's a sign of letting go. And so the Pisces degree part of this full moon, I think there's something cleansing about it. There's something quite therapeutic, and I think it can also indicate just how we can flow into the next stage, into the next chapter. Remember that this full moon in Aries, whilst it isn't an eclipse, it's still a part of that story. And so remember that with the North Node in Aries, this is about us considering our own individual path and what we really want out of life, our journey, our bravery, our courage. So Pisces, I think the Pisces degree can maybe signify this tenderness, this softness, this gentleness about this stuff. Plus, with the number 6 being highlighted, okay, numerology, this number is nurturing, it's protective. It sort of says, hey, I know that this change, this new chapter, this thing that you're letting go of is going to be very painful. I know it's bringing up a lot of harsh realities and difficult feelings for you, but just know that you're safe, right? You're safe. You're going to be okay. You are going to be okay. It may feel like a very painful thing, all of this, but you're actually transforming. You're transforming. You're growing. Keep in mind that Venus is the dispositor of the sun here and the South Node, and it's making that 29-degree sextile with Pluto, right? So this anaretic degree of urgency and this push, it can feel like a push, like a, do you know what? I am ready to enter into this next stage, this next chapter. And remember too that Scorpio itself and Pluto, these are parts of the astrology that look at transformation. So yes, remember that this 6 number says you're supported. And I even just further want to highlight that this full moon is happening in the Sagittarius decan. So we've got the Aries Sagittarius combination. So maybe a part of it too is, hey, get out of your own way. See the opportunities. Can you see the opportunities here? And I think this brings us back to Jupiter, right? We were saying that Jupiter can be this supportive force. So Jupiter in Gemini says, just take some time to reflect on your options, what's available there. How can you be flexible with this energy? How can you be open to new discoveries and new opportunities? And maybe to try to be somewhat lighthearted about the whole thing, but then to also further say, remember that there is that groundwater trine happening, and Neptune is a part of that. Neptune is very much this sign of being loving and supportive and empathetic. So it's a nice mix, I think, the energies. It's a nice blend. It's a nice combination of the emotional stuff, the tenderness with that, but then also just as much the, okay, right, it's ready to move. I'm ready to move. I'm ready to embrace the next chapter here. Remember, the full moons are about resets. We release, we shed, we close chapters, but we also then close those chapters to enter new chapters. We also reap rewards. Things are illuminated, clarity is gained, and our emotions may be strong. Remember, with the moon in Aries, your emotions could be like, I feel this way, and so I'm just going to say it as it is. It's this type of energy. And that's also kind of why I'm saying here, or I was saying, that some people could be very blunt around this time, just very direct, very forthright. Don't get me wrong. It could be that certain situations and spaces and relationships call for this type of attitude. But I think the sun in Libra and with Juno also sort of says, just remember that You can also enter into these kinds of conversations in a somewhat more tactful way. And then the thing about that too is you're considering your own inner peace. Maybe it's about saying the thing or doing the thing for your own inner peace. All right, so let's now move on. So here's the important thing. We had the new moon, solar eclipse in Aries, which happened April 2023. So that eclipse opened up this set of eclipses in Aries and Libra. That was at 29 degrees. Remember, in a sense, that 29-degree point with the fact that Pluto is currently at 29 degrees. So yes, there's so much to be said here about the urgency, the push, I'm not going back there. That's my old life. That's the way things used to be. I'm ready for a change. Remember, even on that note, that Pluto is at 29 degrees and we are at that final countdown. Maybe I'll just save what I want to say there for another video, but yes, it really is about embracing a new era as Pluto re-enters Aquarius by November. So, focusing on the eclipses, this is a moon that will illuminate the intentions set April 2023. And remember that the nodes then entered Aries and Libra July 2023. And there will be one final eclipse in Aries March 2025. This moon is like an accumulation of the past 18 months. It's just like I was saying earlier, it's a time to go, hey, honest review time, honest analysis about this. Where am I at? What I want? Where am I headed? This is then about a big release. And I think too, there is a powerful shift happening, a powerful release. Even thinking about that Aries influence, Aries can be a very passionate, dynamic sign, very enterprising. But it's also then a release connected to independence and getting what we want. Plus, the sun in Libra shines its light on the moon, reminding us that to get what you want, you also need others. We want balance, right? We just want to think about balance when it comes to full moons. Seeing the other person's point of view can actually help you succeed in life, whether this be a personal thing or a business thing. To be able to come onto other people's side and say, oh, I see where you're coming from. I see that angle. Okay. There's more likability. There's more connection. People perhaps may want to collaborate with you. Maybe you'll gain more respect in business by doing this. Juno in Libra says, what about mutual respect, mutual cooperation? But then you see Chiron in Aries says, how might we overcompensate by trying to act tough or ultra independent? How might we push others away? Now, we could also look at this from the other sort of perspective of Libra can also show up as, yes, we know this, people pleasing, okay, just agreeing for the sake of agreeing. And then things can build up, right? Resentment can happen, bitterness can happen, all this type of stuff. And then Aries also reminds us that, oh my gosh, I let myself down. I betrayed myself. I didn't think about my needs there. I was so focused on everybody else's needs, right? So then Chiron and Aries could further then indicate this element of actually, I want to put myself first. I want to enter this new chapter, or I want to close this chapter, but I'm afraid. But I don't know, what will I be without this person or without these people? Or what about my identity? It could be this whole thing of this identity crisis, right? So I just want you to remember that when it comes to this, there are many different ways, angles you could look at this. And so keep in mind that Chiron and Aries can show up in terms of oh, get out of my way, push it out of the way. But it can also show up as, no, I need to focus on myself. This is what I need right now. Moving on, let's explore how this is a full moon, reminding us of our journey and also how others have been a part of it. So there is a chapter closing related to this whole thing of me versus you. We're going to tie up loose ends for a clearer vision. So it's a good time then to think about these things, because by tying up those loose ends, maybe the path will be much clearer. Maybe by letting go of a situation, it could be a relationship thing. It could be the way that we're seeing something, right? A certain perspective that we have that shifts. It could be a mental thing, right? With Jupiter even connecting in some ways. But even with that, we may find and discover that the path is actually clearer then, and that new people start to come in, right? There's other opportunities that come through. It's this whole thing of Jupiter saying there's abundance out there. You're not just limited to one thing or one person or one group of people. There's other possibilities that exist, but we got to take the initiative. We got to be confident. We got to possess this I can do this, right? I can do this attitude. Teamwork leadership is also highlighted. Getting others on our side. Great full moon for collaboration, harmony, projects. Think about projects, right? So there is the trine and the sextile to Jupiter retrograde. This could be about teamwork, and I mean a big team. This could be about having a large impact on society. This could be about diversity, flexibility, seeing the bigger picture, meeting new people. And I mean this on a larger, grander scale because Jupiter is a part of it. And then with the square to Mars, yes, it could be that we feel more protective, or this is about emotional themes since the eclipse in Libra. So the moon in Aries adds this warrior-like quality, this I can face this, I can face this, I can overcome this, I can do this, right? Embracing the next step outside of your comfort zone. There's an eagerness, there's an excitement, there's a passion. Aries says, feel the passion and the fire, right? That fire, build the momentum, get things moving, do the thing, right? Moon in Aries is like, no, I'm not just going to sit around and think about something. I'm going to do it. Just, of course, be cautious of being impulsive or being reckless. There. So this, lastly, I want to mention again, the Venus sextile Pluto, the 29-degree stuff, relationship renewals, which seem finalizing. And I mean finalizing. Face what is hidden. Trust and intimacy become a priority. And I mean a priority. It's a notable shift, a notable flash of insight, clarity, Uranus even being a part of this, opposite. This could very well be a time period that's very electrifying, accelerating, exciting, surprising, shocking, disruptive. Oh, relationships and finances present these qualities, right? But power struggles can also happen. There can be this refusal to budge. So with Mars opposite Pluto, which again will grow stronger in the next coming weeks after, from the full moon in Aries, as Mars moves closer to oppose Pluto, but conflict can happen, struggles can happen, butting heads, not seeing eye to eye, but with challenge comes growth, okay? This is the thing, through our challenges, maybe we can go, hey, you know what? Actually, I see it this way, or what do you think? And I'm really struggling with this. I'm finding this difficult, or this is a really challenging situation. What can we do? Oppositions, whilst they can point toward this struggle, this tension, this push, this pull, they can also look at harmony. They can look at collaboration. Remember that. And then with Neptune retrograde, we are reminded of our spiritual insights and our ability to let go, our ability to forgive, actually, and to focus more on, okay, I can only really control myself. I can't control other people. This can be a time of healing, of maybe seeking solitude. Could also be a good time for visualizing and being creative, being really artistic. Now, with that being said, Neptune retrograde is making that square with Jupiter retrograde. So it could be this whole thing of who is telling the truth. How might your own mind be deceiving you, actually? Or even thinking about the kinds of media you take in. How are you being deceived there? What do we believe? Is it that there is some kind of misleading stuff happening, this directionless stuff happening? We could look at this on a grander, more global scale, of course, which I'm not going to get into. But it could also show up in our day-to-day a little bit there. And then with Mercury making the trine to Saturn retrograde again, maybe this supportive energy can go, hold your focus, cut through the BS. You know deep down what is best for you. You know. And then naturally, of course, with the groundwater trine, once again, we are reminded, what can you truly control? You recognize, okay, I can't control that. Okay, let it go. Okay, let it go. I know these things can be easier said than done, and I also struggle myself. I'm not perfect, but hey, the astrology is great because it acts as a practical tool which we can use within our everyday lives to make things that little bit better. Okay, so on that note, we are going to get into your horoscopes. First up, we have Aries. Okay, so Aries, this of course is a pretty important full moon for you because the moon is happening in your sign. So let's think about the past 18 months. Let's think about what was ushered in here with respect to your life goals, thinking about your identity, your appearance, your physical body. You've been making moves. You've been quite active and being that doer, really. Being that doer, taking certain brave risks, showing courage, standing up for yourself, being reminded of your worth, being reminded of your capabilities. And so, with this full moon happening in your first house, it could be a case of you maybe gaining some sort of clarity about anything that you fear or anything that you are resistant to during this time. Anything that maybe feels a bit, oh, I don't know if I can do this, right? Because Chiron is connected with the full moon. Maybe your emotions are a bit sensitive during this time, or you feel slightly triggered by things, or perhaps this can be a good opportunity for you to really focus on your emotional needs, right? What do you need? How can you reach out for support? And of course, with the sun being in the seventh house for you, keep in mind Juno is a part of it, but this is a reminder that there are other people in it with you, right? There are other people who can support you, who can help you, and who can give you some sort of healthy feedback. Now, we also want to explore more of this. So, perhaps because Venus and Mercury are both in the 8th house, and we think about how, so firstly, let's think about Venus, right? So Venus is the dispositor of the sun, and Venus rules both your 2nd and your 7th houses. So this could be a case of finalizing a few matters to do with trust, commitment, emotional bonding and intimacy. But considering how these cases, how these areas are linked to collaboration and partnership, and also your self worth, your financial prospects there, and the ways in which you earn money. Thinking even about your skills and your talents there. It could be that there's actually something quite surprising that comes up to do with your skills and talents. Something quite unexpected comes up, reminding you actually, hey, you know what? Yeah, I've got this. And then, of course, we want to think about how Venus is communicating with Pluto. So perhaps this is also about your career. This is about your social standing, your public presence, your reputation, and really what you're wanting to build within the world. Thinking about your long term goals there. So there could be some finalizing moments that come up here when it comes to these areas. Now, in the case of Mercury, Mercury rules both your third and your sixth houses. So Mercury here in the eighth during this full moon for you could very well indicate that you're going to be thinking very deeply into things, and you're having to focus. You're really having to focus and concentrate on information that may be quite heavy and quite deep, or it could be this thing of assessing what is hidden, assessing what is underneath the surface, and bringing things to light. So, this stuff then will be linked to your work, it will be linked to your everyday responsibilities and your routines, and it will also then be connected in with just your own general way of communicating. And so, what I'm noticing here, really, if we think about the eighth house in terms of transformation, is that this is a time period, Aries, where you're going to be transforming when it comes to your voice, when it comes to how you show up within your services, within your working life, your daily routines there, and also transforming when it comes to the ways in which you refine your skills, the way you can improve, and how it is that you collaborate with others. Okay, so moving on to Taurus. Taurus, we have this full moon happening in your 12th house. Right, so thinking about the past 18 months, Taurus, a lot has been going on behind the scenes. Maybe a lot of people don't fully recognize just how much you've been struggling or how much you need support, and perhaps it has been somewhat challenging for you to reach out. Maybe it's this whole thing of feeling quite alone in it all, or maybe this is about you working through your own psychological stuff, or taking some time away from the public, from the outside world, to figure things out, right? To really go, hold on, how am I feeling? What am I dreaming about? What's coming through for me? And what is the unconscious really trying to tell me? The unconscious could be speaking about anger or frustration. It could be communicating wants and desires that perhaps you've put off or you haven't really addressed. Or maybe it's communicating some sort of courage and to be a bit of a visionary, to be quite adventurous, right? This whole thing of, you know what, I'm pushing you, Taurus, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. So, this could be a shedding, a releasing, a moment of clarity. This could be perspective gained basically about the past 18 months and what you can do for yourself in order to feel more sort of powerful and capable from within. Aligning, I suppose, your unconscious with how it is that you direct yourself in the world, and maybe being able to trace, okay, how might I be getting in my own way? What self-destructive, self-sabotage tendencies are coming through there? And then with the sun opposite in the sixth, well, you're kind of supported in a way where you can draw some more information from your environment, and think about okay, well, what can I realistically, practically do here? How can I make things more balanced and more harmonious in my life? What about my health, right? My body, how is it that I'm looking after my health there? And what about my diet and my routines and exercise and everything? These matters may very well come up. And I guess in a way, you will be shining a light on these areas, and that light will sort of be representative of balance and harmony. So, whenever we also turn our focus towards Venus in the seventh and Mercury, it appears as if around this full moon, you will be finalizing a few things to do with contracts, agreements. It could be that such contracts and agreements do involve other people's money, other people's resources. There could be management situations that come up here, Taurus. Perhaps you'll be also finalizing some partnership matters. And these matters will also be linked to your higher education or to training. So, advanced training, certain programs that you want to take on. It could be a whole thing of you really tying up loose ends and seeing what the next step forward is you and how you wish to progress in some respects when it comes to learning more, traveling, and expanding your mind. But I want you to keep in mind that these finalizing situations will also be linked to that of work, right? Your services. They will be linked to your health, thinking about your values and your priorities, really, thinking about your physical body and how you can look after yourself, thinking also about your aims and your goals for the future. And maybe you will be quite surprised by what comes up. You might even surprise yourself, or it could be that it is your relationships and your partnerships that are shaken up and quite surprising and possibly electrifying and exciting around this time period. Now, as for Mercury, there's also then this communicative piece. It's also about considering, okay, what is actually being shared, listening well, taking in information, and making sure that you have all of the right necessary facts and figures and data there. Thinking about documents and important papers that need to be signed or important emails that need to be sent. Consider even how these things will be linked to your money, your resources, and also will play a role with respect to your free time, holidays. Okay, thinking about just time off for fun and play there, Taurus. So then moving on to Gemini. Gemini, all right, so let's explore the full moon in Aries for you. Keep in mind that the full moon is happening in your 11th house. So, for the past 18 months, Gemini, you have been evolving when it comes to pioneering attitudes, leadership attitudes within your communities, within your groups and teams. You've really been showing up and putting yourself out there, I think. And maybe a big part of this is overcoming your fears or facing even your fears, facing them in a way where you go, not today. I can do this. I've got this. And maybe this is also about the kinds of teams and sort of larger, wider networks and organizations that you're a part of, and just the influence that you bring, the impact that you bring to the group. And that inspirational piece, I think, this motivational drive that you have, this passion that you just exude here. So, yeah, this is a full moon that could very well bring a lot of clarity surrounding these themes, but maybe also a bit of a release, a bit of a letting go, shedding old skin when it comes to any confidence issues there. and just being brave, right? Being this warrior with the full moon in your 11th in Aries. And to also further add to this, with the sun being in the 5th, a lot of this is about the ways in which you express yourself, how you can express yourself in diplomatic, tactful ways, how you can actually collaborate really, really well with others, and you bring that interest, that intrigue. You're very good at influencing other people with your words. That is for sure, Gemini. So I think this is a full moon that's going to remind you of just how influential you are and how you're bringing together of people and teams and friends, even this sort of social butterfly stuff with Gemini. I think that these things are going to be really recognized, especially by those close to you around this time. This could also show up in a romantic way, right? So, thinking about romantic relationships, even thinking about children that you have, perhaps there is a desire to want to create more time, for instance, with your children or with your significant other. Now, let's further think about how both Venus and Mercury are in the 6th. Keep in mind that Mercury is your chart ruler. So, with Mercury here being in the 6th, this could very well be a case of you gaining some kind of feedback from employers, from colleagues, from coworkers, and making it your priority to look a little deeper, to assess, okay, what is being presented to me? What facts, what documents are being presented to me? Could also be a case of transforming when it comes to your working life, your workload, possibly your productivity levels could also very well shift and change. Could even be quite a stressful time, or maybe it's about recognizing your stress levels and how you can maybe bring those down slightly through certain changes by being a bit flexible there. And this stuff also, I feel, will be tied to your home, right? So your family life, your home life. Yeah, it could be really a time period of you recognizing, well, how is it that you wish to show up within your family, and what improvements can you make? What little adjustments can you make? Small tweaks, small changes, so that things are a bit more healthy and you feel a bit more balanced and aligned. And naturally, with Venus also being in the 6th, this stuff is also connected in with the children stuff that I mentioned, time off, romantic relationships too. And maybe a part of this is quite spiritual. It's about your own healing and solitude and seeing where you may be overextending or where you may be overdoing it. Naturally, there is a finalizing sort of element here to do with work. Seeing that, oh, do you know what? This old way, this old habit, it needs to end, right? It could be really as aggressive, as straightforward as that. It's no, done. I'm done walking away from this. Maybe such matters will be very intense and very profound for you because Pluto is in the 8th. Or, maybe this stuff is somehow linked to that of your own psychology and your inner power, right? Thinking about what you really want for your life and what you're building. Cancer. So, Cancer, we have here this full moon happening in your 10th house. Now, I'm going to bring Mars into this one for you, Cancer, just because Mars is in your first and the moon is your chart ruler. So, there's a bit of a relationship happening between your personal needs and your emotional needs versus the needs of others out there, versus the needs of your employer, your manager. This stuff could also be about your family. I'm getting here, Cancer, the responsibilities that you're feeling right now, and possibly the pressure that you're feeling, the pressure to perform, the pressure to manage yourself and to conduct yourself in a way where other people are satisfied and happy with you. Could also be a case of, okay, what's being kept inside? What are you bottling up? What are you hiding? Maybe there's some emotional turmoil happening here. There are some inner frustrations happening. Maybe you don't want to upset others. Maybe it could be where it feels like you're walking on eggshells, or it's hard or difficult to address a situation head on. And so, if anything, you may be acting in passive aggressive ways, right? So honestly, this stuff could feel a bit tricky. It could feel a bit like you don't quite know which direction to turn. But what I am going to say here is that, remember, over the past 18 months or so, with the North Node rather, and the eclipses happening in your 10th house, I think a lot has already been changing to do with leadership positions, to do with your achievements, your accomplishments, just basically asking yourself, how are you showing up as a leader within the world? Considering your public image and your reputation and how such matters, they reflect your leadership, they reflect your pioneering attitudes and behaviors. And maybe that's the thing. You want to be seen as a warrior, you want to be seen as brave. And so maybe this is also partly why it's a bit difficult for you to maybe open up or to be vulnerable. Vulnerability could be quite a sensitive topic for you right now, Cancer. But I will also say that with the sun being in the fourth house here, there is an opportunity to sort of think about who is within your space. Who can you go to? Who can you ask for support? Maybe this is about even seeking greater peace and harmony within your family, within your home, when it comes to your emotions too. And it just requires that listener, that lending ear to go, hey, you know what, I can empathize with you, I can relate to you, I can see where you're coming from. And maybe, yeah, maybe this is the kind of voice that you're looking for. And could even be a voice that you recognize isn't going to come from other people outside of you, and you have to kind of think, well, that needs to come from within me. And even that within itself may be quite challenging. But what I will also say here is that with Venus being in the fifth house for you, finalizing situations are coming up here to do with partnerships and relationships. Really, it could be as straightforward as that. It's like, okay, what is it that we are moving on from here? Is this serving us? Okay, this isn't serving us. We're going to move forward. This is it. And I just say this because that 29th degree, it is a degree of urgency. It can be a degree of, okay, we've just got to move through this and push into the next chapter. So yeah, I could look at this in a way where it feels a bit intense, but you know what? It could be a case of empowerment. It could be that you and your significant other feel empowered about what you want to build, about how you want to grow together, about what you're sharing, how you're collaborating together, just some transformations happening. So this stuff, of course, could be romantic. It could be about a romantic situation, a romantic relationship. But this could also be about your creativity. This could be about your heart. Ah, this could be about the things that bring you joy and happiness, and the things that you find to be pleasurable, your hobbies and all that good stuff. So yeah, there could also be this finalizing element to these areas, which are full of passion and great curiosity and a desire to want to change things, to transform. And I'll also say here that such areas will have some sort of impact on your family and your living situation, maybe tied to your living situation, and also have some sort of linkage there with um, your friendships, your groups and communities, and maybe thinking about your hopes and wishes for the future. You could very well be surprised and shocked by the kindness of others, the generosity of others, other people's perspectives coming along and reminding you of your worth. And also, With Mercury being in the fifth, a lot of communication happening within romantic settings, communication and thought going into that of what do I like, what are my interests, what are my passions, what are my hobbies, and really taking that space, taking that time to dive deep into those areas, and then to also consider how these things will be linked to that of solitude, right? I need this time to work on my project, I need this time to be creative here, taking the space, taking the time that you need. And also we'll have something to say about making such things practical, right? Practical solutions. What can I do? How is this information useful to me? Let's now move on to Leo. Leo. So this full moon is happening in your ninth house. All right. So for the past 18 months or so, Leo, your beliefs, your perspectives, your worldviews, maybe even your morals to some extent have changed or have been recognized greater or greatly, or it's that these areas align with your courage, with your bravery, with your leadership and your passion. There is this driving forward focus that you have really possessed and that you will push for right now. And maybe a big part of this is about freedom. It's about standing up for yourself. It's about your personal mission, your identity, your visions, your beliefs, right? Your personal beliefs, Leo, and what you stand for in the world. Maybe this could even be an educational thing, right? It could be about exploring other topics and pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone too, I think. Now, with that being said, because this is a full moon, there could be some sort of release, there could be a shedding, a letting go, it could be clarity even about anything that's unsettling to you, anything that does trigger your courage or triggers your capabilities, anything that just maybe keeps you back and makes you live in fear. Yeah, maybe there will be some sort of emotional clarity. And this could be a healing time too, with respect to your emotions, right? Because of Chiron. But with the sun also in the third, keep in mind, yes, the sun is your chart ruler, but the sun in the third, this acts as a reminder that, you know what, there are plenty of people who have your back. There are plenty of people who see you, who want to be around you, who find you to be amazing and wonderful, a lot of people who listen to your advice, they listen to your feedback. This, I feel, for many Leos can be a really validating full moon. It can be a full moon of recognition, even if it is that a little part of you within feels a bit like, I don't know. I don't know. I wonder, is it that self-doubt could come up quite a bit for you, Leo? But actually, again, we are reminded here by the sun in Libra that no, actually people want to collaborate with you. People hear you and you're enough, right? You bring this energy, this presence, and you remind people that confidence is confidence speaks very loud. It speaks even louder than words at times. And your self-expression, your radiance, it's beautiful. And so to sort of this sort of, I think, acts as a reminder to continue along that path, if you will, right? Maybe it could even be a good time to explore your creativity there, to be curious about learning new creative strategies and styles. Could be quite the beautifying, appearance conscious time period for you, Leo. Now, with that being said, Venus and Mercury are in the fourth. So there is quite a bit happening in your home life right now and around this full moon. I think with Venus being in the fourth house, some finalizations are being made when it comes to your family life, your home life, and how that maybe is linked to your work and linked to your services. Could be about renovations, could be about things that you want to let go of, things that just are not serving you, even when it comes to your routines. It could be a health matter, right? Sort of thinking along the lines of, you know what, maybe my family member is sick, or maybe I'm not feeling the best. And so it's important for me to let go of such and such routine or habit in my life so that I can feel better, or so that I can be there to support my family, whichever way you kind of want to look at it there. But yes, some finalizing moments coming through, Leo. And then we want to consider how, with Venus being in Scorpio, this can be very passionate. It can be all encompassing. It could be this intensity that really comes through, especially emotionally, especially within family settings. But then also consider how such matters are linked then to that of your career, your purpose, your goals, your ambitions there. Thinking about what you want to build, what you want to be known for in the world, and also thinking about how such areas will be linked to that of conversations and discussions. Just important discussions may be coming up here about balance and creating greater ease and harmony in your life, especially if it is that you are going to extremes and you can see that. And this leads me on to Mercury, right? So Mercury in Scorpio could be about, okay, in discussions, in conversations, really reading into things very, very deeply. Now, it could be a good time to explore the unconscious, to explore your shadow, if you will, maybe to even explore the shadow of loved ones, or to get people to open up, to be vulnerable. But there could also be some sort of resistance and fear surrounding these areas too. But maybe, I suppose, the important thing is just to be able to consider your own stuff, and also thinking about how you can look a little deeper, looking beyond the surface, beyond what is obvious. Consider such matters then when it comes to family situations, and also these things will be linked to that of finances. Finances, belongings, possessions, ownership. They will also be linked to that of communities and teams and groups and friendships there. And just at the same time, we could notice that you'll be quite surprised by a new vision, a new vision about your priorities, a new vision about your values, how such matters are then linked to that of your career path. So moving on to Virgo. So Virgo, we have this full moon happening in your 8th house, right? So for the past 18 months or so, you've been on quite the psychological journey, Virgo, haven't you? Really diving into your unconscious, into your psychology, addressing your shadow, addressing your darkness, so to speak. And I say that, of course, not, I hope that doesn't come across as I'm saying that the shadow and your darkness, or that these things are bad. Do not mean that. But I do hope you get how I'm coming across here. Just you exploring the unconscious, exploring what you repress, what what you may find difficult to reach for within yourself, or to recognize within yourself. Maybe such matters are linked to your own courage, your bravery, your ability to sort of project yourself out into the world and to face life and to say, no, I'm going to step up to this challenge. I have what it takes. I can do this. Maybe you've been unraveling a lot of stuff to do with the past, thinking about unresolved traumas. I mean, yeah, heavy stuff being explored, Virgo. And I also think that on another level, over the past 18 months, you've been really growing in confidence and assertiveness, really thinking about how you can assert yourself when it comes to shared resources and debt and paying things off, and even thinking about management, right? Managing other people or other people's money, and the leadership stuff required from within you. Now, with this being the full moon, it could be that there's some sort of shedding, a release, a moment of clarity, a moment of, how did I not see that before? or it's that you will recognize the little sneaky part of you that tries to pull you under and sort of doubts yourself. The sneaky part of you that goes, oh, this is actually really difficult, or I've been wounded here, there's pain here. Like I was saying earlier with the new chapter stuff, with Chiron involved, it could feel quite painful or a bit, there could be resistance involved, but keep in mind that the sun is in Libra and is saying there are other people to support you. Try and not to go into yourself, right? Where you can ruminate, where you can take things in so personally, and it's like, oh, the slightest little thing can really get under your skin, Virgo. Try and remember that, especially in a work setting, especially in a professional business setting, there are other people you can turn to, right? There are certain individuals that can help you out. And I suppose with Libra in the second, people usually are very generous with you and very giving toward you. But still, I think the sun in Libra sort of serves as a reminder that collaboration and partnership and reaching out, gaining feedback, these things can be really helpful to you during this time. Now, let's also think about how Venus and Mercury are in the third house. Right. So there's something quite finalizing here about a creative project, about a hobby of yours, something finalizing. Maybe it could be a sort of closing to do with a relationship situation or how you behave within relationships. Just to draw quickly from my own experience with this, because I do have a Virgo rising, I recently made the decision to close my Patreon. So that very much, I feel, aligns a bit with that Pluto in the fifth house energy at the 29th degree. Just the closing of a chapter, the transformation, I suppose, when it comes to my creativity. So for you, Virgo, it could be that these matters relate in some way for you. And it could also even be a case of your self-expression changing. There could be a renewal to do with your confidence, a renewal to do with your individuality and your ego too. Now, I also want to mention that with Venus in the third, it could very well suggest that the ways in which you communicate come across as quite deep and intimate and trustworthy, very determined in your communication. And these things also are tied in with work, your resources, your finances, also tied in with your higher learning or with learning more. Okay, wanting to ask the questions, gain the feedback to expand your knowledge. It could be that it's really time for you to get somewhat serious and focused about learning. And, you could surprise yourself. You could surprise yourself around this time, maybe because of other people's perspectives, or maybe because there are unexpected events that occur that actually end up being quite enjoyable, or they inspire you, right? It's this whole thing of feeling inspired by a new mission, by a new purpose, by new aspirations. Plus, with Mercury in the third, there is also a part of it where it really is time to gain perspectives from people within the environment, your local environment. It really is time to focus on the facts and the information and the data there, and to look a little bit deeper, to read social cues, to gain sort of feedback about people in a way where you're able to look beneath the surface and not just be sort of surface level about things. And keep in mind too that these areas are linked to your goals, your aims, your life path. Your priorities, I think, are very much changing. And We have seen this, of course, with the fact that eclipses have also been happening in your second house, Virgo. But these matters are also then going to be linked to your career path, right? Because Gemini is in the 10th, linked to your career path and your professional lives. So, Libra, okay, so Libra, this full moon is opposing you, right? So, for the past 18 months, Libra, you've really been pushed outside of your comfort zone. You've been pushed way, way outside of your comfort zone with so much activity happening in the sign opposite you. It's like, no, I'm going to take a stand. No, I'm not going to take that anymore. I'm not going to tolerate that kind of behavior anymore. No, I know what my worth is. I know how to be confident in this situation. I know how to get what I want. So very much standing up for yourself, possibly standing up for the underdog, standing up for other people, being somewhat more bold and direct and daring within partnerships and relationships, having the courage, having the audacity, really, to start new projects, to jump in, to make things happen within collaborations, all these things. Thinking about as well business, Libra. So it's all happening for you. There is this inner warrior spirit occurring within your relationships and partnerships around the full moon. And at the same time, gaining clarity, gaining feedback, maybe even tying up loose ends, leaving something in the past, letting go, right? There could be a kind of release when it comes to these areas too. With that being said, the sun is in your sign. So, this is still about your inner peace. This is still about your goals, your desires, your wants. And yes, with it being Libra, it's still a bit of a balancing act. It's still a bit of okay, I need to weigh out my options. I need to kind of explore really, what do I like? What do I enjoy? Is this for me? Should I try this on? Is this really worth it? So there's still that kind of back and forth process occurring, but still the sun in Libra, I think, is so much about, okay, your vitality, your physical body. Remember to look after yourself. Remember to slow down when you need to. Pouring into yourself, Libra. Because as the saying goes, I think it's that you cannot pour from an empty cup. Now, let's think about other parts of this, because quite a bit is happening in the second house for you, right? So thinking about your second house of finances, possessions, materials, all this stuff, how you earn money, etc. So Venus, remember Venus is your chart ruler. There's something finalizing happening here to do with ownership, possession, and income, and how those things are linked to possibly a living situation matter for you. It could be a family situation, it could be about some sort of control there, or perhaps this is more so about your own emotional well-being, your own emotional state, considering your self-worth, your self value, right? What you value, what you stand for, what your values are. So, yes, some sort of finalizing moments coming up. And, such moments could be about cutting situations off, could be about leaving a particular relationship situation in the past, could be about analyzing a little deeper your own sort of behaviors and attitudes about money or about relationships. Now, these things, these areas will also have something to say about your identity, about the way you present yourself to the world, how you show up as an individual. They will also have something to say about intimacy and trust, really. Trust, bonding, connection, going deeper. Could be that you're surprised by a connection experience here during this full moon. It could be that you're surprised by information that comes to light that you didn't know before. And maybe it's about gaining some sort of clarity about deeper intimacy and bonding, or it could be some kind of attachment, like a physical attachment, a practical attachment that could surprise you, or maybe it could even be a detachment, detaching from a certain relationship, detaching from a certain emotional situation that doesn't serve you anymore. Plus, with Mercury also there seems to be a lot of discussion happening about shared resources, about joining together, right? The joining together of resources and materials. And, this could be a case of you and your significant other saving for something quite expensive or saving for your future, possibly. And it could also be a case of your thoughts are really being put into that of, okay, how am I feeling? What about my self-worth? I don't feel like this is healthy for me, or yes, actually, I would really like more of this, and this is enjoyable to me, whichever way you want to look at it and explore it there. But the sort of deeper thoughts and the reading into things with Mercury and Scorpio will also be linked to that of some solitude, some time away, some time to contemplate, to go within, to figure out what your priorities are, what you really value, and what you stand for. And also, they will be linked to that of maybe just going on an adventure, going on some sort of new exploration, an explorative trip. It could be about learning something new or opening your mind, being really curious, right? There's that greater curiosity and that greater vision that you may be seeking, right? It could even be getting out of your head a little bit by getting out into the world, right? New experiences, new opportunities, just expanding your horizons, Libra. Scorpio. Okay, so Scorpio, this full moon for you is happening in your sixth house. So, for the past 18 months or so, a lot has been poured into that of your work. I mean, for many Scorpios, it's been work, work, work. It's been, okay, I've been accomplishing this, now I'm on to this. This is the goal, now on to the next goal. It could be that your leadership is really coming through here and you're very driven. I mean, you can already be such driven people in general. But when we think about the North Node in your sixth house over the past 18 months, it's like, okay, I am shifting gears. I am going after the things that I want when it comes to my daily habits, my daily rituals, my practices, and hey, refining your skills, getting better. You're adding really to your credentials, I think, and just adding to your overall everyday health and everyday life. And even just thinking about productivity and your stress levels and just making things happen. Do, go, 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 with Aries there in the sixth. But this, of course, is a full moon. So it could be a case of shedding, releasing, letting go. It could be a case of you reaching a bit of a burnout. Just going to say that, Scorpio, with Chiron nearby. It could be where you really have to assess, how am I treating my body? Can I keep up with this? Is this actually possible? No, seriously, whenever I'm realistic with myself in terms of my mental well-being, can I do this? Am I able to manage this? Now, here's the thing. The sun in Libra in the 12th adds some sort of support, I think. I think this can be a good opportunity for you to gain that feedback or to look a little bit deeper, for you to recognize, okay, maybe I do need a little bit of time away. Maybe I do need a break from this. Perhaps I would like to escape the everyday life, the mundane stuff, and just think about my relationships or my partner, or hey, with our relationships and partnerships in this, thinking about yourself, thinking about greater balance and harmony from within and the things that you enjoy behind the scenes, your own sort of creativity and pleasures, and how you can then just focus more on the things that pull you in, the things that are attractive to you. Furthermore, we want to think about how Venus and Mercury are in the first house during this full moon. Firstly, something finalizing is happening to do with your siblings. It could be a sibling relationship situation. It could be more of an immediate family situation thing. Okay, so maybe it's about really taking the time to go, okay, is this that our relationship is evolving? Is it entering a new chapter? Is it entering a new stage? What's coming through here is a sort of transformation, possibly an ending to do with these kinds of relationships, whether this be a sibling matter, cousins, could even be aunts, uncles, grandparents, your spouse. Just there seems to be this finalizing situation going on and leaving perhaps an old habit, an old way of doing things in the past. And being very clear even about your intentions and about what you want. And then how such things can be built on for a new, to even build on trust, to establish trust. Plus, I think that these areas, these matters, will have something to say about your deeper desires and your deeper fantasies, and will also have something to say about, well, let's just think about collaboration and harmony and that back and forth, to think about how um how you can collaborate in healthy ways. And if there is any imbalance, if there is anything that's too messy or too chaotic, you may be really thinking, oh, I'm not sure about this. Oh, do I really want this drama in my life? This is what's coming through. But, it could very well also be that you're surprised. You're surprised by other people's changes, right? Their changes of behavior, the different new ways that they're showing up within relationships. And maybe that within itself is enough to make you listen a bit or make you even go, oh, I can relax here. And with Mercury also being there, well, we see then you being very much vocal about your wants, your goals, your direction, your path, right? And reading into things, being quite magnetic within conversations, drawing attention, attracting people to you, influencing others with your words, being a strong, powerful communicator, of course. And to further say, this stuff is linked to how you show up within your communities and your teams and your groups and your friendships. It's also then linked to that of intimacy, trust, and emotional bonding, and shared resources too. So whether this be you wanting to join together with your significant others so that you can pay for something in the long run, or this could be a case of you paying back some sort of payment, just thinking about debt there as just another possibility. Okay, let's now turn our focus to Sagittarius. So, Sagittarius, this full moon is happening in your fifth house. So, thinking about how over the past 18 months you have been making significant changes when it comes to any children you have, thinking about making things enjoyable for them or just wanting to give them the best possible life there. This could also be a case of you taking on a leadership role, a leadership position when it comes to something you really enjoy, right? Something that you get excited about, a project, it could be a passion, a passion project of yours. This could also be about you being somewhat pioneering and driven with respect to romance and love and dating and relationships and just wanting to make things happen there. So Many shifts, many changes here over the past 18 months, Sagittarius. So, this is a full moon where things are just sort of coming to a head. It could be a time of clarity, it could be a time of reward, it could be a time of shedding old skin and seeing what no longer serves you anymore and how you wish to maybe even move forward here when it comes to these areas. Thinking about your self expression, thinking about your individuality there and how you project yourself, your ego, all these areas to do with the fifth house. At the same time, with the sun in Libra in the 11th, this acts as a bit of a reminder that there are people out there who want to help you out or who want to provide their support. This is a reminder that there are friends, there are people within your communities, people within groups you're a part of that have some sort of they have something of value to share. They have something of value to offer you in that you're not in this alone. It could feel like that. Or it could be where you can recognize the sort of relationships you have built when it comes to friendships and communities and teams over the past 18 months. Maybe a lot has really changed and there's greater peace, there's greater collaboration, there's greater harmony, and this give and take sort of energy happening when it comes to friendships and teams and organizations you're a part of. Now, at the same time, we notice here that Venus and Mercury are in the 12th. Now, we'll say here that when it comes to 12th house stuff, especially with Scorpio here, could be a bit tricky, a bit difficult, a bit challenging. Maybe being upset or really very emotional about certain relationships and things that feel outside of your control. I would say to try and show yourself kindness and compassion during this time, Sagittarius. But hey, with Venus being at 29 degrees, making that sextile to Pluto, it could be a case of things are coming to their end. There are finalizing situations happening when it comes to uh, financial matters, physical security matters, thinking also about your self-worth, your self-esteem there. Things are coming to this point of clarity, this point of real recognition with respect to just what you've been building and what your mission is there, what your purpose is there, thinking about the long term, the structures, the foundations, all of this stuff to do with Capricorn in the second. And maybe it is about transformation. Maybe it is about shedding old skin and embracing a new chapter, especially because, hey, Venus will enter your first house just moments after the full moon occurs. So, yeah, it could be a whole new vision, a whole new perspective here. Just even thinking about your priorities changing and shifting and considering what the next opportunity is for you ahead, the next path, the next stage of your life here, Sagittarius. There's a lot to be grateful for, I think. There's many thanks to give, and you are this kind of sign that does tend to count your blessings. And you'll see the bigger vision, I think. You'll see the bigger picture throughout all of this. All these matters as well that I talk about, especially with Venus, intensity of that, especially considering any sort of deeper layers and resistance there to do with relationships and collaboration and finances. But these matters are also linked to that of group ideals, community situations, changes you want to see in the world, those more global dynamics there, thinking about bigger, wider networks and teams. Such matters are also then going to be linked to that of your work and your services and your day to day and how you show up then with respect to your daily routines, basically, there, Sagittarius. Plus, with Mercury being a part of this, maybe it could be that you're going to feel quite intensely about things or think intensely about things, maybe on your own behind the scenes. I would even just say here, just to be cautious of bottling things up or keeping a lot inside, keeping things to yourself, or ruminating or self-sabotaging, self-destructive tendencies there. Just to be cautious, to be mindful of these things, Sagittarius. But the other thing about this is that this stuff that I talk about could very well be linked to that of your reputation, or hey, your public image and how the world perceives you out there, so to speak, and maybe giving a lot of thought, or too much thought, to that of other people's perspectives and their input, possibly. Such matters also could be linked to that of your relationships and partnerships, especially your significant other, your spouse there, right? So yeah, there could be some things that you are addressing when it comes to the communication piece, and maybe you're wanting to improve upon more effective ways of communicating. But with Mercury in the 12th, maybe it is about just, stay with this, stick with this, maybe just think this over, contemplate a little bit here, try and not do anything rash, try and not do anything impulsive or go to extremes, or to go to these assumptions, right? To jump to conclusions. Remember this too, I just want to say, Sagittarius, that the Mercury retrograde is coming up in your sign very soon. So the clarity you're looking for, the answers that you need, they're coming. Things are going to be a lot more clearer in due course. And maybe you, more than most, understand that and appreciate that. Now, turn our focus to Capricorn. So, what is happening for you, Capricorn? Well, there is much going on here to do with, yes, family stuff, your living situation, also thinking about your emotional needs there. But there's also a lot going on to do with your professional life, your vocation, your purpose, your long-term goals. And for the past 18 months, Capricorn, you have been focusing a great deal on what you can do, the goals you can reach and tackle and face within the home. I think there's a lot of this dynamic, enterprising energy being poured into your family life, your home life, just even thinking about your privacy. Maybe a lot is being shed, there is light rather being shed on your privacy and what you want to keep to yourself, and also how you can attend to your own emotional needs, right? How you can cater toward your emotional needs, or how you can cater toward your family's emotional needs, especially if it is that you have children, for example, they're Capricorn. So yes, a lot of doing, a lot of progression, a lot of making things happen. The initiation stuff to do with Aries, and the fighting spirit stuff as well. Naturally, with this being a full moon, it could also feel a bit emotionally draining, right? It could be this time period where you feel emotionally drained by emotional situations, by how you may be impacted or influenced by other people's emotional needs, and you just want to focus more on yourself. It could be that you are feeling emotionally drained because of a stressful living situation thing, right? Or it could be a family thing. Maybe there are some immature family members, or family members that just act super rash or super impulsive, and you feel like you're the one who's caught in the middle, or you're the one who has to attend to their needs. And maybe you feel a bit like, oh, I just don't want to have to deal with that. I don't want to have to do that. So the sun in Libra acts as a reminder that balance is key, and that it is important to also let people figure things out for themselves to some extent. And I mean this in terms of adults. I'm not talking about children in this instance. I'm talking about adult family members. I'm talking about family situations where you do not have to pander. You do not have to jump in as soon as a family member says go, right? Maybe as well, a bit of this is, so with the sun in Libra, a bit of it is reminding you that you do have your own sort of goals and desires out there in the world, which these things are linked to collaboration and teamwork and building together. Maybe even the Sun in Libra does remind you as well that when it comes to your accomplishments and your achievements, you also must consider how those things will serve you in the long run, how they will create greater harmony for you later on in life. Now, I want to also think about how Venus is in the 11th, Mercury is in the 11th. So especially with Venus at that 29th degree, something is coming to a close here, right? Something is coming to a close when it comes to your goals, when it comes to the ways in which you project yourself and show up within the world. And remember that Pluto is at the very final degree in your sign. So it's been a long road. It has been a long 16 years. The final countdown is here, right? Because Pluto will enter Aquarius by November. So we've got about another month of Pluto in your sign. And I think it's just highlighting, take some time to reflect, take some time to go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've achieved this and this and this and this. And this doesn't have to be about physical rewards, physical achievements. This could be a sense of integrity. This can be about your self-respect. This is about your identity, right? How you show up in the world and show this presence of, you know what, I am capable. I'm a hard worker, I'm diligent, I'm dedicated, I'm determined. And just seeing even the obstacles that you've overcame or overcome, whichever word here with the correct wording. But yes, to see just the path, the road that you've led up to this point and what you've achieved. To take time to recognize what you've done and to recognize the path that you've led. And also, a part of this, I think, is about how such matters will be linked to how your hopes and wishes for the future could very well transform, right? You may get to the sort of finishing point of this transit and actually look back and go, wow, that's been really great and amazing. But I feel like I've outgrown this part of my life. Now I'm ready to grow in other ways. Even just to further add to this, I want you to remember with the full moon itself in Aries, a part of it is clarity about leadership, about your inner confidence. The results speak for themselves, Capricorn. This, I feel, is a reminder for you that it is your inner confidence that actually pushes you towards success. It's your boldness, it's your bravery, it's your courage to make things happen and to do the thing. And yes, you're going to be cautious and somewhat hesitant at times, but whenever you do commit, that's it. And it can be a long road. It can be, and I think Pluto through your sign has helped you address this more so in a very deep way. But I think essentially this is about recognizing that even the obstacles, even the restrictions, even the setbacks, the delays, all the Capricorn stuff, they are just as important as the top of the mountain, the peak. They're a part of your journey. They all serve as a lesson, as a teaching for you. And I think this is a full moon that's going to really get you considering this stuff in very powerful ways. I also want to mention that the things that you will be finalizing to do with organizations and teams and group dynamics, these things will also have something to say about your career, will have something to say about your purpose, your mission, and will have something to say about your free time, holidays, thinking about greater fun, greater play in your life. And It's this whole thing with Capricorn of you may work hard, but you play harder. Plus, with Mercury in the 11th, this I feel can be quite an important transit for really gaining facts and getting feedback from team members, from team players, but being focused, really listening, and having this sort of intense focus in a way where, okay, I remember that, I get that, I can go look into that more. Greater investigation, greater research may be required for you within these group settings, within these team settings. Okay. And these matters will also then be linked to further training. Okay. Learning more, training more, gaining better education, and putting that stuff into practical use, of course, too. And this stuff will also then have something to say about your everyday job. Okay. The work that you do every day. Also, flexibility, adaptability when it comes to your routines and your everyday habits. Okay, let's now think about Aquarius. So, Aquarius, what is happening for you around this full moon in Aries? Well, let's consider how the full moon is happening in your third house. And for the past 18 months or so, you have been showing up as a bit of a pioneer, as a bit of a daredevil when it comes to your voice, communicating, speaking, learning, writing, researching, reading, just, you know, really wanting to be mentally stimulated and learning from all sorts of sources, gaining as much information as possible, really, Aquarius, and having the bravery, having the courage to step forward, to take the initiative. And yet, with this also being a full moon in Aries, a part of this, yes, it could be you getting some kind of reward or you getting clarity about these areas and this sort of recognition, this, aha, I can see this. I have been a pioneer. I have been a leader. Great. But also, maybe there's something to be said about your own sneaky self-doubts, your own sneaky thoughts that can tap on your shoulder and say, hey, you might want to double check that. You might want to ask yourself, is this what you want? And maybe a part of this is your own recognition of times when you haven't spoken up, you haven't defended yourself, you haven't stood for freedom and adventure and greater curiosity. Though another possibility here could be that this is a full moon highlighting your own journey, your own personal journey to do with possibly relocating, thinking about your own local area, the city you live in, just the location that you're at, and any significant changes and shifts you want to make there. This could also be about certain relationships that you have with immediate, close sort of family members. Maybe you're wanting to gain some sort of clarity from them or feedback from them. Or this is about you recognizing your own individuality and what you actually want. What do you want from these relationships? What do you want from the relationship that you have with your brother or your sister or your cousin or whoever it is, right? And speaking then for truth and for honesty and to be quite brave throughout it all. And with Chiron, of course, being a part of it, and with it being a full moon, it seems as if these matters are going to be illuminated. There's going to be clarity. There's going to be a letting go, a possible release. Maybe it is about releasing any sort of self-doubt or negativity, or maybe it's about releasing anything that gets in your way here and sort of blocks you or limits you from really appreciating and taking on the next step. And so, yes, there could be this kind of challenge to do with your courage. Maybe a part of this is self-doubt and possibly insecurity about making the right decision, so to speak. But here's the thing. The sun is in Libra in the ninth, reminding you that all you got to do is ask. The information is there. There are people in your team. There are people in the settings, right? This could be an educational setting, a work setting, a training situation. There are people who can assist you. There are people who want to help you here and want to support you with any questions you have. And that you can collaborate well. You can connect really, really well with others. I mean, Aquarius, you can be great conversationalists, great at striking up really insightful conversations with others and asking others about them. So maybe even a part of this Sun in Libra, it says try and direct a bit of the energy away from you, especially if you're in this headspace of, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And instead, direct that energy toward others, ask about others. You may even find that your partnerships, and especially I think this can be more of a business thing because Venus is in the 10th, but your partnerships could very well change in very dynamic, powerful ways because of your ability to take the focus a little bit off you and onto others, to see into the other. And here we go. Venus is in the 10th and is making that sextile with Pluto. So there is something quite finalizing about relationships and partnerships, especially thinking about manager relationships, bosses, thinking about how it is that you show up then within your career and all the people that are a part of that scenario or of that organization there. And maybe even this is about drawing from the progress that you've already made, the transitions you've went through, the ways in which you've already transformed over these past 16 years here with Pluto in the 12th, to remember your own psychological progress. And just keep in mind that with Pluto re-entering your sign come November, you really are up, Aquarius. There's been a dance between uh, Pluto in your sign and Pluto in Capricorn. But remember that this final opportunity with Pluto in Capricorn in your 12th, it's good. It's a good time to really reflect upon the work that you've already done on yourself, the psychological work that you've done behind the scenes. Carry those lessons forward into the future, and you just may find that you are going to transform in really powerful ways to do with your body, to do with your individuality, your identity, how you show up in the world there. These finalizing moments, these transformations to do with your career, your professional life, your vocation, and just even the relationships that exist within these areas, well, these matters will also then be linked to that of the advanced training, educational stuff, and also possibly linked to legal matters, and will also be connected with your home life, your family, considering property, housing, investments. Now, with Mercury also in the 10th, Mercury sort of comes along and says it's really time to communicate then with professionals or to communicate in a professional manner, in a professional setting, and to do so in ways where you're being really insightful, perceptive, you're going deeper, and you're really drawing from your personal power and you're showing emotional intelligence, then these things will be connected to the psychology stuff that's been unfolding for you, and the progress and the improvements that you've made to do with your own psyche. And also, they will have something to say about fun and enjoyment and getting to know people, getting curious about other people, and even just seeing that as a pretty interesting experience with plenty of opportunities too. Lastly, we have Pisces. Okay, so Pisces, let's explore you. Pisces, the full moon is happening in your second house. So for the past 18 months or so, you have been this go getter, this doer, this pioneer, a leader, a visionary, very enterprising when it comes to the resources that you want to gain and the types of money you want to earn and the things that you're accumulating and things that you just want to make happen in terms of the physical world. Investments may be a big part of this. And even just your skills and your talents, these areas may be very much highlighted for you. Just quite active. And with that, you've been asked to be brave. You've been asked to be a bit of a warrior, a daredevil, quite bold in your decision making, taking risks when you need to, and maybe even just following your gut in a lot of ways there as well. But you see, with this being the full moon, it could very well indicate that you're still shedding some things are coming to light, and maybe you're letting go a bit. Maybe there is greater clarity about any self-worth issues or rejections to do with your self-worth there. Maybe this is pointing toward a bit of this um get out of my way kind of attitude, or I don't need others, I don't need other people's support. This stuff may be coming through a little bit. And so you may gain clarity. You may sort of ask yourself, well, why is this happening? Why am I pushing people away, possibly? Or this could be a case of the self-doubts coming through to do with your skills and talents and your worth, and it's still about questioning this stuff. There's some sort of clarity, or there is a perspective that is gained that helps you shift things, helps you move things along, and there is possibly that release. Now, with the sun being in Libra in the eighth house, perhaps this points towards some of the shadow, some of the unconscious coming through, possibly thinking about times whenever you have agreed whenever you actually mean to disagree, or times whenever you have not actually stood up for what you wanted in the past, but yet you just did it because you wanted to make other people feel comfortable. So there is some clarity about honesty here. And at the same time, with the sun being in Libra, it still does act as this message of there are other people who can collaborate with you, who enjoy you, who love you, who want to give to you. There is this sharing space, there is this sharing quality around this time. Now, with that being said, I mean, sure, it could very well be that when it comes to the heavier stuff, the deeper stuff, and how those matters are linked to your significant other or partnership, okay, sure, it could be that some things are being swept under the rug, or some things are not being addressed, and maybe that's getting to you, and it could create this sort of tension, if you will. But I just think it's this energy still indicates that there's a way perhaps to bring up these areas and these possible disagreements in a way that's quite tactful and diplomatic. But whatever the case may be, the sun in the eighth house asks you to look a bit deeper, to investigate the unseen, what isn't being said, and just, yeah, to explore the truth, to bring truth to light, especially regarding compromise, regarding collaboration, justice, truth, these types of things. Now, at the same time, Venus is in the ninth, and so is Mercury. So, Venus here indicates some kind of finalizing to do. So, finalizations to do with maybe a group mentality, maybe finalizations to do with certain networks or movements or group situations that you don't want to be a part of anymore, maybe transforming when it comes to these areas, or different perspectives, different perspectives, greater clarity, greater transformation, where you can move away from a group dynamic or a relationship situation that involves more than you and another person. So it's more about a group thing, a team thing. So yeah, it could be a class situation, a club situation, but whatever the case, there is a kind of transformation. It's about moving on, or, it could even be that this stuff, it's actually quite empowering in many ways, right? It could be a case of you're graduating or the class is coming to a close and you're going to miss those people. And yeah, it can be quite sentimental, it can be quite sad in a way too, especially if your emotions are involved and you miss people, etc. But yeah, just finalizations happening then to do with group participations there. Also, this stuff has something to say about more of the deeper areas, the exploring the unconscious, and also has something to say about communication and about education as well, and the whole learning process there. And then, speaking of communication, Mercury is also in the ninth. So I think this indicates here, Pisces, that you are going to be quite focused on wanting to expand your knowledge, but not just in this wider vision way, but also in a more deep and introspective way, where you're able to look a bit deeper, you're able to read between the lines, you're able to dissect information quite a bit. And perhaps such areas will also, well, such things will be linked to that of relocating, travel, exploring new territories, right? Going to other destinations there. So, yes, gaining this deeper perspective about the world around you, maybe even this is about the transformation of your beliefs, your deeply held beliefs, especially the transformation to do with your morals, your code of ethics. But also keep in mind that these things will have something to say about relationships and partnerships. They will also have something to say about your home life, your family life. Okay, everybody. So this has been the full moon in Aries video. I hope you have enjoyed your horoscopes. I hope you find them to be helpful. Thank you all so much for listening. And again, if you would like to book a reading with me, you can go to hannahselsewhere.com. And if you really did enjoy this video today, you can always buy me a coffee. The link is there and down below, but no pressure to do anything. I am just grateful that you're here. So thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, you can do that, and make sure that you give this video a like if you did enjoy it. With that, happy full moon in Aries, everyone, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye!